Hi, my name is Anthony Farrow. For my module project 1, I'm going to be recording a podcast here on YouTube. Okay? Now, for my theme, I chose at what point did a particular physical movement practice evolve into a modern sport? What catalyzed this evolution? And which of Alan Gutman's characteristics of modern sport were most critical to this transformation? Okay, so let's analyze this. Let's break it down. At what point did a particular physical movement practice, mine's going to be strength/resistance training, so aka lifting weights, evolve into a modern sport? When did lifting weights evolve into a modern sport? I'm going to answer that right now. The golden era, okay? We'll get into the source and the why later. Let's answer the second part. It became known as bodybuilding. It's when, the lifting practice, the physical movement, evolved into the modern day sport of bodybuilding is what it's called. Second part, what catalyzed this evolution, and which of Alan Gutman's characteristics of modern sport were most critical to this transformation? So I'm going to say what catalyzed this evolution was the golden era in general, specifically public figures, okay, icons that you want to be like. An example is Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the most famous bodybuilders, okay? But there's a little bit more to this. Which of Alan Gutman's characteristics of modern sport were most critical to this transformation? I'm going to say equality. Let me answer why. There's weight classes in the sport of modern day bodybuilding, so it makes it fair amongst everyone for all body structures, because some people might have larger bones than others, meaning that there's more surface area for more muscle. And when a judge sees more muscle, they might think that pound for pound, they might not think it's fair. Okay? That's why there's weight classes. There's heights and there's lengths to which we categorize things to make things equality and give everyone equal opportunity to win. Okay? Now let's transition. Since we were talking about Alan Gutman's characteristics and which one was most critical to the transformation of bodybuilding becoming so popular for everyone to join in because of the mass amounts of opportunities, let's just talk about the characteristics in general. There's secularism, equality, specialization, rationalization, bureaucratization, quantification, and records. Okay? So, obviously, I talked about how there's equality in bodybuilding. Let's also talk about records. Records in terms of Alan Gutman's 7 characteristics of modern day sport is defined as achievements are documented and compared over time. Now let's transition smoothly into my first source. According to UOWTV, The Last Flex, Chris Bumstead retires after 6th consecutive Mr. Olympia win. Wow. So there's this icon, there's this public figure, Chris Bumstead, C-Bum. A lot of people know him. And he's this guy, and you look at him, and he's got these massive muscles and this such low body fat percentage. It's like, wow, how does he do it? This kind of brings me into my one scholarly source. So let's transition smoothly. Like you said, all my transitions have to make sense in the rubric. Let's go from my first article to my first scholarly source. We go to the scholarly source. According to the National Library of Medicine, the article talks about the widespread use of performance-enhancing substances, or they call them PES, in bodybuilding, and their health risks, regulatory challenges, societal impacts, and the need for education, regulation, and intervention strategies to mitigate public health concerns. So what this essentially means is these PEDs, PESs, whatever they are, this guy, C-Bum, and these modern day bodybuilders are using them. Are they abusing them? I don't know. Because again, there's scientific researchers, and these guys are the best of the best, so they're probably being safe. But for other people, they pose public health concerns, because what if you do abuse them without the correct knowledge? They're not teaching you how to use these performance enhancing drugs in school. Therefore, there's the need for the education. Okay, it talks about the regulatory challenges. These performance enhancing drugs, they're illegal and are controlled substances in some other countries. So you have to get them off the black market. So without that knowledge and like that education barrier being in the middle, it poses a lot of health risks because you don't know how to take them, what you need to do along with it, things like that. So that's my one scholarly source. Now this brings me into transition. This brings me into transition of my second article. So according to the RAC, the golden era was from 1960 to 1983. And the golden era saw proliferation of steroids transforming the sport and physique standards. It marked the dawn of an era where muscle size and definition became paramount. So, let's break this down. You remember earlier I was talking about when physical activity and exercising, resistance training, things like that, evolved from just trying to maintain basic health to an actual sport and trying to look good in front of judges, trying to win competitions to see if your body outperforms others in the competition. Not that you're really performing, but looks-wise. So we had these figures, okay? Arnold Schwarzenegger came from Austria. It talks about it right here. The rise of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Pumping Iron. Pumping Iron was a movie. I don't know if you know that, but it's basically a documentary about his life and his competitions and stuff. There's another one on Netflix called Arnold, but that's a TV series. It talks about his it's a documentation about his life as well. But basically, he came from Austria, saw this man. That man was Hercules. He saw him on a poster, starring in a movie. He wanted to look just like him because he was big and strong. So he started training. And Arnold kind of started this whole golden era up when he moved from Austria to the United States. And with that, people wanted to do everything in their power when they saw these public figures and these icons of the sport being huge. Everyone wanted to look like them, right? So that's really when people started to do everything in their power. Maybe not everything in their power, but they would do some pretty wild and crazy things in order to get the results that they want, i.e. steroids, for example. PEDs, people start using them, things like that. So that's the RAC, my second article. So now that we have 2 articles, 1 scholarly source done, 2 terms from class, I already answered the themed question: at what point did a particular physical movement practice evolve into modern sport? When physical activity became bodybuilding and it evolved during the golden era. I just answered that. And what catalyzed this evolution, the PEDs and things like that, and which of Alan Gutman's characteristics of modern sport were most critical to this transformation? The equality, because it gave opportunity to everyone with the weight classes. I'm loving this. I feel confident about this. I feel very confident. I could go over the 2 terms from class one more time, okay? I'm going to go over equality and records one more time and just how they connect to bodybuilding to really make sure it's locked in. Equality is defined as fair competition with equal access to participation. There's equal access to participation in bodybuilding because there's weight classes, okay? So you're not going to be placed with the guy who's 6'4" when you're 5'8", because the comparison of what you're comparing is different, right? Records is defined as achievements are documented and compared over time. This connects to bodybuilding in our one source that we talked about. Chris Bumstead retires after 6th consecutive Olympia win, according to UOWTV The Last Flex. I'm feeling like that was very good. A very logical flow of, the introduction, the 2 terms from class, the answering a little bit of the question or the theme that I chose, and how I went from my first article transitioning to my scholarly source and then transitioning from my scholarly source to my last article, naming some public figures. Thought it was very good. With that being said, let's just do the whole theme, the whole question answered together. During the golden era, resistance training / strength training evolved into the modern sport of bodybuilding, and what catalyzed this evolution was the golden era and the use of steroids. The most critical characteristic of modern sport is equality when it comes to bodybuilding, because there's ample opportunities for everyone because of weight classes and size classes.